And this recording will be available on the AUW California website under peer groups in about 2 days.
Okay, you might want to put that in the chat in about another minute or two because we'll get asked that question after
Okay.
people are
I'll
starting to
do
come
that
in.
right now.
Well, no,
Yep.
wait a couple minutes because if they're not
Yep,
signed in, they're not going to see
I'm
the chat.
just gonna type it. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
send it.
don't press enter yet.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm Becky Gomez. I am one of the directors along with Sigrid for branch development. I'm going to kick it off and then we're going to have various speakers that are going to talk about different aspects of what we're going to cover tonight. When I flip it over to their portion, they'll introduce themselves and just mention their name and the role in the branch, and if they have any state or national level position. For those of you that were with us last month, we talked a little bit about some leadership issues and volunteers first, and you probably have already gotten something else about a little bit more detail on volunteers first, since we got a bunch of comments about that. So tonight what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about leadership in general. We're going to talk about governance, again, a little bit different aspects of that. We're going to talk about the responsibilities of the president, other officers and what they're responsible for doing. And you have different appointed chairs within your branch and what those appointments and those responsibilities will look like. We'll talk about forms and templates. We get a lot of questions in branch development about how do I find this or that. We don't want you to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of stuff out there already, and we'll get into more detail with that. And we will also have time for questions. If you have something that we're not answering, feel free to put it in the chat. We've got a couple people monitoring the chat, and they'll be able to answer some of those questions. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So like I said, we talked a little bit about volunteers first, and how to manage and engage volunteers, how to keep them within your branch. And like I said, we're going to have another separate session, but there are some other things that are recorded that are out there that you can go and look. But Sigrid, that next session on volunteers first is next week, correct? Or next week, the 19th?
Yes, on June 17th, we will have a special session that is basically the group from the Honolulu branch is going to talk about community circles and how they engage new members or potential members in their community through a lunch program in their downtown district, and how they then follow through with those people. So be sure to sign up for that. Invitation has gone out. There'll be a reminder, and it will be on June 17th at 6 o'clock. It'll be earlier. So be there, because I think you'll really enjoy listening to Hope Bennett, president of the Honolulu branch.
And as we mentioned, this leadership orientation kind of came about. It originally started out as the president's orientation, but the more that we worked on it, we realized that we needed to include a lot of what the other leaders were doing. So, for this session, we don't want you to be afraid of asking questions, because that's how we learn, and we learn from each other. And also remember that your past presidents are a resource for your branch. No dumb questions, only the ones that we don't ask. So just to recap what we talked about just briefly from last time before I turn it over to some of our other speakers, is we talked about being a leader as opposed to a supervisor of tasks. Nobody likes to lean over someone's shoulder, and you probably don't want somebody leaning over your shoulder to tell you what to do. You as a leader or an organizer to make sure things get done. And that's why we want to talk about what the other officers and appointed chairs are doing. Decisions are made by your team, your leadership group. It shouldn't just be up to the president or the president-elect or one or two people. You want to make sure that your board is participating and they own the decisions that are made within the branch, because they're also advocates for your branch with your members and with the community. You need to know your board leaders, what they're good at, what they're not good at, and kind of work to their strengths and then bring them along in things that they're maybe not as good at, maybe their communication style or their tech skills or something like that. Know your leaders' strengths and things they need to work on. You have leaders and you have volunteers. And again, we talked a lot about volunteers, and we'll talk about them again on the 17th. But know that everybody's a volunteer. We don't get paid, so we need to work with our volunteers and our leaders and create some trust and respect throughout the organization so that people continue to be engaged and continue to want to develop and engage with AAUW. Fostering that collaboration, again, back to kind of the team decisions. You see some of these things will actually overlap. Fostering that collaboration, what do you think? Who has questions? What can we do differently and better? Sometimes when we do an event in our branch, and I've done this for many years in both my professional and volunteer experience, I like to do a did well, do better instead of what did we do wrong, right? Because we tend to focus on the wrong things. So did well, praise ourselves. Look at what we did well. And do better are those things that, we probably should have engaged this person. We should have done this. But again, that fosters that collaboration and respect when you don't focus on, the negative. Tap your resources and your expertise. Again, that kind of overlaps with knowing what your board is good at. If somebody's good, with technology, somebody's good with communication, somebody knows people to help get speakers for programs, that kind of thing. Again, know your folks and communicate. I think where we probably fall down the most is, we think other people know what we're thinking. And that happens in every relationship and every collaboration. You have to communicate again with trust and respect, and that will certainly go a long way. So that's just kind of briefly what we talked about last time. So now I'm going to turn it over to Sharon to talk a little bit about governance. And ladies, when I flip it over to you, make sure that you introduce yourselves.
Okay, so I'm Sharon Siebert. I'm a member of the Monterey County branch, right now the public policy chair, and I'm the incoming co-president as of July 1 with Sigrid Morans on the AAUW California board. And I've been involved at the state level for probably more than a dozen years. So I know a lot about where all the bodies are buried, frankly. Governance is not a term that just trips off your tongue. And so I want to show you, and many of the things I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be sharing my screen. And I'm going to go to the state website.
And you Sharon, you're not going to be able to share your screen right now.
Oh, okay. Well, then I need you to do it, Becky. Can you do that?
Well, I could, but once we start going outside of this, we're going to have
never mind. Never mind.
I put the link to the screen, the AUW California website. So if somebody wants to click on that, they can look at the website now or later.
Okay, so let me go back to talking to you all. So governance is something that covers a lot of territory. We have under the governance area, job descriptions, we have information about the policies and procedures and the bylaws for the state. And unfortunately, even though we are a public corporation, they the the policies and procedures are password protected because we don't want anybody to go in and muck around and change the things that we have already set up. But if you have questions with regard to what the bylaws or policies and procedures of the state website of the state organization is, that can be found under the terminology governance. And in addition to that, governance covers the branch structure. You know, national only requires that you have 2 positions filled for your branch. And that's an administrator or a president, and it can be multiple people. As long as you put all those names into the branch officer report, both at the state level and at the national level, then you can have multiple people in those positions. There have been branches that have not put anyone in as their administrator or president. That is a problem because you will not get information from AAUW National that will not get to your branch, and sometimes those are really crucial. So the other position that is required, frankly, is a financial person. And again, I'm going to recommend that you have at least 2 people to cover the financial aspects of your branch. You can have a membership treasurer, you can have a regular treasurer, but we have come up against certain aspects of branches where the treasurer said she was going to fill out a report and she didn't because she couldn't. She had passed away. So you must have somebody paying attention to all of the financial aspects that are required by the state and national. With regard to your job descriptions, highly recommend that you have, as it says on this slide, the duties, the hours, the deadlines for each of these positions. You could have lots and lots of positions that are listed in your bylaws. And if you're not following your bylaws, you're not necessarily going to be having all these people filled in. It's hard to elect 12 different people for all the different positions that you might have. But the president and the president-elect or the multiple administrators in your branch can appoint a lot of people to various positions. And I highly recommend that you look at what it requires, what the position requires, and what the number of hours involved is. This comment on the slide that says stagger elections. If you have a lot of people in your bylaws that are supposed to be elected, maybe you don't want to elect them all in the same year so that it's not as onerous for you every year when you have elections to have all 12 people elected. You might want to consider looking at that. And you can change your bylaws. It's easy enough to change your bylaws as well as your policies and procedures. Bylaw changes usually need to be voted on by membership, but policies and procedures usually only need to be approved by your board. Your board should have a vision of what you want to accomplish, and therefore you will be getting information from the state and from national based on the position titles that you put in to the branch officer report and the national officer report. So make sure that you're aware that that needs to be completed and do it expeditiously because it needs to be done by a certain time. Otherwise, especially from national, you won't be getting anything. I think that the most important thing you have to remember is with regard to governance. If you have a parliamentarian, if you have somebody that's running your branch via Robert's Rules of Order, that all comes under governance. But it's easy to find the governance section of the website. And so these things have leadership resources are where a lot of those things are found on the state website. Next person is going to be
Me.
Sigrid Morantz, who's the incoming co-president of California, AAUW California, with me.
Thanks, Sharon. Somehow I need to get myself up here so you can see me. Anyway, okay, so the president's responsibilities at the highest level is to represent the branch. And that means at the local, state, and national levels. If you have an interbranch council in the county where you live, then usually the president is the representative for that. If you are interfacing with the state over any issues, AAUW state or AAUW national, typically it's the president who has those relationships, or at least facilitates those relationships for other officers, particularly if they're looking for help with the hub, which is where we keep all of our information at the national level, with membership and with finance. The president is also the primary contact for outreach and community activities. So if you are going to create relationships with the League of Women Voters, with Chamber of Commerce, with the Girl Scouts, anybody else in your community, probably you want your president to be the face of the organization. The president also leads the branch meetings and creates the agendas. Now, in conjunction with the secretary, they create the agenda, create the meeting. If you're going to be in person, of course, you need to set a venue and a time and a place. And if you're going to be on Zoom, you need to set up the Zoom meetings and ideally record them for future viewing by members who couldn't be there. And also, it's helpful for the secretary to have a recording of a meeting so they can go back and review for the minutes. In my branch, we record the meetings on Zoom, the board meetings in particularly. And we also use some of the Zoom features like transcript and AI so that all of the documentation gets put together and our secretary is capable of feeding it all into an AI generated system that brings out the minutes and the to-do list. So that's kind of handy and we can help you set that up. Complete the annual reports. Okay, there's three and different areas. First of all, you need to be entering new officers each year at the state level, which is the BOR, and the BOR stands for Branch Officer Report. You get an email from the state with a password that's unique just to the president, and the president goes in and updates who are in each of the roles within the branch. If you have not filled a role, probably you want to extend the previous person's role for a few months until you do fill the role. And you can go back and correct that later. There also is in the hub on the national website, same process. You need to go in to your roster and assign jobs to the people who are officers in your branch. And there's a limited list of officers. Not every office that we create in a branch has a corresponding office in the hub or the BOR, but you'll see what is relative, and you'll figure out which ones you have to add. And then the most important one is the annual survey that just came out and is due June 30th. And this is a survey that you fill out as part of the 5-Star Award Program. And I think Don is going to talk a little more about that later, but it used to be optional and now it's mandatory. And a new function of this is also a financial piece where you need to work with your treasurer to create a balance sheet and an income statement. And at the 5-Star Award site, there's instructions on how to enter information into the 5-Star Award program and also how to create the balance sheet and income statement and how to upload that. You also want to be the person appointing chairs. So lots of offices are not elected offices. Probably in most branches, you'll have fewer than 6 elected offices, but a lot of other appointed jobs like scholarship chairs, anything that has to do with programs like Tech Trek chairs, maybe Nick Whistle chair, any of those kinds of things. And depending on your own bylaws, which you should check to find out which are elected officers and which are appointed officers. Okay. I think this is, let's see. And then you probably want to create some kind of measure of success. We, at the state level, we have success plans for each of our directors that they line out exactly what their goals are for the year. And that they have a committee who's going to be responsible for it. And what's the progress point? So if you want to put together something like that, we can certainly help you, or you can put together something on your own. Regular communication with the board and the branch members. Most branches have a board meeting and then a branch general meeting. Sometimes they're on the same day for convenience, and sometimes they're not. They're in different times, different places. But you want to be responsible for communications. And one of the appointed jobs I would strongly recommend you have is a communications person. You also want to be the person who builds consensus. There's going to be a lot of conversations around decisions and how we make decisions. And you need to be the one who leads the building of the consensus. You also want to establish a branch calendar, and this is part of your branch planning. Many branches have a board retreat or other kind of meeting over the summer months to put in place whatever their plan is for the coming year and what they want to do. You probably want to have somebody responsible for submitting one of your activities to the Branch Activity of the Year Award, the Bay Award. And if you're giving scholarships in local colleges, I strongly recommend that you establish a college and university partnership chair who can establish relationships with the schools. So it's not just a one-way street where you're gathering money and awarding scholarships to the schools, when what you really want is to establish a relationship with them so that it's a two-way street and you're partnering with them in community events and other kind of student-involved events on campus and other times. Lastly, but certainly not least, is the succession plan. Always have a plan for who's going to take that job next. And as Sharon mentioned earlier, some of the more essential jobs like treasurer and possibly president need to have a co, because if something happens and you have one treasurer and nobody knows where the checkbooks are and nobody knows where the checks are being mailed and where the bills are, you're not going to be in a happy place. So always have an assistant treasurer or a membership treasurer or someone else and be sure that that person is also on your bank accounts and in the WAR and the hub as a co-treasurer or assistant treasurer or membership treasurer. Because all of the communications that come from AUW National and AUW State are linked to jobs. So if there's important information for the president, that's where we go to get the distribution list. If there's important information for the treasurer, that's where that distribution list is. So it needs to be as accurate and complete as you possibly can. And if you're having COs, as Sharon said earlier, possibly staggering so that they have different times in office. I'm a strong proponent of having a 2-year period of an office as opposed to one. That way you don't churn your branch trying to reelect officers every single year. And if you do that, then you have the opportunity to stagger who is in a job for which years. And you'll always have somebody who's experienced and maybe someone new who's learning. But having a succession plan is part of the 5-star program, but it's also essential to having a clean running branch. Okay, I think we can go to the president-elect, which is basically the person who backs up the president. You assist at the branch meetings, you chair meetings in the absence of the president, you help with establishing the communications with the board and the branch, and you can represent the branch in absence of the president, or you might be delegated to go to an interbranch council in place of the president, or to appear at a meeting or an event in the community. And if the president is not available, you perform the duties. So you should be very, very familiar with what all the duties are of the president so that you can step in at any time. And then, like every other volunteer job, it's duties as assigned, whatever comes up. But it's a lot more fun and a lot better on your own psyche to have somebody working with you, whether it's a co-president, president-elect, or a vice president. It's easier if you have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Okay, so I think I'm finished, and we're now going to hear from Carol Holsgrave, who's going to talk about the secretary's jobs. Carol?
Thank you, Sigrid. I've been a member of AUW since 1981. I now belong to 4 branches: Paradise, Chico, Morgan Hill, and San Jose. I get around. It's been a great joy of my life. I do public policy and tech trek, and I tend to try to support other members of our branches because I've been around for so long. But tonight we're talking about the secretary's responsibilities, and you will see essentially a brief description on the, on your screen. But what does it really mean? You take minutes at the board and general meetings. You record what is done, not what is said. You record main motions, who made them, not the seconds, points of order, appeals, the outcomes of all votes, times the meetings began and ended, who attended, the date and location. Then you distribute the minutes promptly, of course, to board members and other members who ask for them, and you keep them safe for posterity. But wait, there could be more. You have to discuss with your president what she wants, how much help she wants from you. Does she want help drafting the agenda, notifying the board of upcoming meetings, maintaining copies of the bylaws, standing rules, the member roster? You could handle branch correspondence for her. You could even take minutes for branch task forces if you have those. How much you do, of course, will affect the hours you spend. Now, here's something that could make your job easier and strengthen the branch historical records. Each board member submits a written report to you of what she's going to be talking about before the meeting to be shared with and read by other board members. And you can either share them by email or Google Drive, depending on your level of tech interest. The results of this are shorter meetings and written records. This really means that at the board meeting, what is discussed is new information that came in after she prepared the report, and discussion about the thing. She doesn't have to explain everything again, hence the shorter meetings. You can find AUW's job descriptions, AUW California's job descriptions, of course, under the policies and procedures on our website. You'll also find a fuller description, including the ethics of secretarial work, at robertsrulesoforder.com. Thank you.
I think next up is Donna, and she's going to talk about finance. Donna Holmes.
Hi. So I have been the Sacramento finance director in one form or another since 2009. And I'm a state director, and I'm joining the branch development team on July 1st. And I work a lot with membership. As a matter of fact, the membership directors and myself, we meet for a 40-minute Zoom every Tuesday morning at 10:15 to keep up with the renewals and all the things that are happening. In the finance area, there are some deadlines that you need to adhere to. When you receive donations for funds that need to go to national, and they sent you a check, and so you need to make out a contribution report form, and then that is sent with a message saying express link to contact at AAUW and Tremaine Parquet, and then they'll send you a link back, and you can do it with your bank card or ACH transfer. You're responsible for meeting the state and federal tax filing guidelines. For the state, it's a $25 fee that I believe is paid every other year, and it's a small report. The wonderful thing about that report is it is also acceptable for the annual survey. For the finance information, the report that you have to prepare for the state of California is exactly what they're asking for. So you can take the report you did last year, because that section of the 5-star program is on last year's finance year. So they want the year ending June 30th, 2025. And you just look at the one you filed, stick it in, give it to the president to file with the rest of the survey, and you're done. You prepare a budget during the summer, and meet with the board, and it's presented to the membership before the first meeting, or posted in a newsletter or something, or an e-blast, and then voted on usually at the first meeting of the year. You keep track of receipts and forms. So if people incur approved expenses for the branch, you're going to be doing that. You do the insurance, you pay the insurance, you get a bill from the state, and then you can help your membership when they need the insurance verification for a venue or something. All of this is on the state website. It's in 2 places that you can access it easily. One is by going in Branch Tools to Finance, and they have their peer-to-peer group meetings. Most of these areas are covered regularly, and the recordings are available at that site. Under the forms, which we'll get to on another slide, a lot of the forms are already pre-done for you there. And if you want, I don't remember, is there a form on the website for a voucher? Ladies,
There's a state voucher form, but it's not appropriate for this kind
Branches?
of situation.
No, yeah.
oh,
Our
okay.
rules are different, very different. You have to have your own rules, yeah.
Yep. So generally speaking, for my branch, I did design a form and who needed to sign it. And I'm happy to provide that to anybody who wants it. And there you go. So I think we can move on.
So the next topic we're going to be covering is public policy and advocacy. That's the new name for what was formerly known as public policy, because advocacy is really a lot of what we do. And it aims toward social justice, which is what we all have been working for over 140 years. Really important aspects of public policy and advocacy come under what we do at the local level as well as at the state level. And I don't know how many of you know, we actually have a paid advocate in Sacramento that is paid by AAUW California to lobby for the types of bills that we would like to have promoted. And by the way, in the chat, there's an information on how to get to the forms and templates that Donna was mentioning. So one aspect of public policy that's really important, and advocacy actually also, is lobby days. And I highly recommend that as you're planning your year activities, if you're doing them for the entire year, that you note that sometime in probably April, lobby days will be handled within your branch. The way we did it this year was each branch was set up to meet with their local legislator. That these are California legislators, whether in the Assembly or in the California Senate. You're given total training on what to do for these meetings. You are given usually 3 bills that are priority bills that AAUW California wants to do, promote. Sometimes we're even asked to help write the bills or co-sponsor the bills. So there's no problem with not knowing exactly what the bills cover. You will get complete information because you'll have a Zoom webinar event where you will learn about what the talking points are for our priority bills. But in addition, there are other things that you can do throughout the course of the year. And what a lot of branches that are recruiting new and possibly a younger demographic member is the fact that they are reaching out to the community, whether and remember, we're nonpartisan, but we can still write letters to our legislators. One of the easiest ways to do that, and I recommend that you have everybody in your branch become part of the 2-minute activist, which is right on the screen. It's activated through the national website. But if you plug in the search engine, the 2-minute activist, it takes less than 2 minutes to actually sign up to be part of that. And you will get a notice from an email notice from National, and they will ask you to contact your national congressperson or senator. They even give you the information on who they are, and all you basically really need to do is sign your name, and it goes off to your senator. I just got a response from Senator Schiff's office telling me that he was happy to have that letter sent to him about the SAVE Act, for instance. So advocacy is what we can do, and it's a crucial part of what we will be promoting when Sigrid and I come in on July 1 to everything we're going to be emphasizing. After all, we know there's a very important midterm election, and then, of course, in 2 years, we'll be having a national election. Remember, we're nonpartisan. However, we can still advocate for nonpartisan positions, for instance, as superintendent of schools or public instruction or the insurance commissioner. We will be having further information next year in our in-person convention about the get out the vote types of efforts that we can do. And a lot of branches include some aspect of public policy and advocacy in every one of their general membership meetings. I've been told that that helps recruit new members. The public policy positions and the public policy and advocacy page on the state website is voluminous. They have put out a newsletter regularly telling you what we're doing at the public policy and advocacy level, and also always includes 3 items at the end of the newsletter that you can do as part of your efforts and as part of your membership. I highly recommend that you establish relationships with your local committee, your local representatives. One of the things that has been suggested is that branches send their newsletters to their city council people and their county supervisors, because with those people knowing what we're doing for pay equity or voter rights or any of the things that we have been promoting over the years, they're happy to know about us. And sometimes they'll even show up at one of your events if they have been invited and have time to do so. So with regard to public policy, obviously you need to have a chairperson. And that chairperson should take the bull by the horns and try and get everybody involved in at least the 2-minute activist on the national level. I highly recommend that you take a look at the newsletter that's been put out by the public policy directors at the state level, and you will be blown away by how much information there is and a lot about what you can do. And so the next slide and the next person to speak is Dr. Mimi, who's the Tech Track director on the state board, and she's also coming in as a member of the state board of directors.
You
So,
woke me
Dr.
up.
Mimi,
You
I
woke me
you
up. You woke me up. Like, oh, okay. Here I am. I'm getting ready for our first camp week is next week. So those of you who are volunteering or who are going to be coming to help out at the camp, we're going to be having a lot of fun. We've got 2 camps running next week, 3 camps the following week, and then the remainder of the camps will be done in July. So we're excited about that. This is going to be a good year. We've gotten a great response from all of you and from your branches, and we can't do it without you. So we're here to support you, the project is. As you know, Tech Trek has been around, we're going on 30 years. Many branches of the 103 are we at right now?
Yeah, about 103 at this point.
Yeah. Of the 103, about 102, maybe 101 do Tech Trek in some fashion. So this is definitely one of the projects that a lot of you find valuable, obviously, or you wouldn't keep doing it in terms of raising money. And so the kinds of things that we have to, it's essentially a year-round program, but we really kick it into high gear starting in the fall because you got to do your fundraising, right? And then you get into the early part of January through March. Those are deadlines where you've got to start your branch coordinator and the branch committees, and that's also all over the board in terms of every branch has a branch coordinator. Some have many, some have one, some have one that does everything. Some have one or two with a committee of 10 to 15 people in some cases. In most cases, it's a handful of people, and it's the same people who volunteer for a lot of the outreach type things, working with the schools. So these are usually people that are connected to the schools so that they can develop those relationships at the school level. So March is when, but actually late January is when applications go out for campers. We start looking for nominations from the schools. And it's a special program in that all of our applicants must be nominated by the schools. And so because of that, it's very, very important to have a relationship. On top of that, the kinds of students that we're interested in going after are the ones who might not otherwise get a shot. So these aren't the A+ students. These aren't the 4.0 GPA students in general. These are the students that we really want to get into it. And so we want people who understand that mission, that are on the committee, that help with camper recruitment, that are going to help with the interviews during the February and March kind of time frame. Fundraising, as I said, is, well, it's done year round. We just got a $10,000 grant from National. So it's not something that you have to wait until the fall to do. And a lot of your people do great. And again, every branch is different in terms of what the skill set that they have. There are some branches that have a lot of big businesses that can offer large donations to help sponsor campers. There are many branches that don't. It's from their individual donors. It's $50 here, $100 there. So it's really all over the place. In some of the branches, and it's growing, about 35% of our branches, we have Tech Trek alum groups. So these are campers that come back after camp and they get involved and they meet. They form their own little activity board so that they can decide what they can, if they need speakers, if they want to talk about college and career paths. So this, again, 35%, but we also have a getting pretty active Tech Trek alum community that's virtual. And so they have an advisory board and they sponsor virtual activities. And many of your branch coordinators know about them too. Things we need to worry about because of AB 506, which requires all organizations that work with minors in a capacity of more than 16 hours a month or 32 hours a year to have all kinds of protective kind of things for the minors. So we need to have things like student parent permission forms when they participate in activities with us. And that includes if you're going to have somebody volunteer to drive somebody. With the camp, if they're working with the camp, we can facilitate that through the actual program, the Tech Trek or the Camp Doc program that will facilitate that. But we have volunteer conduct agreements that all of our volunteers have to sign every year because you never know when the law is going to change, right? You might say, hey, I signed it last year. And we've tried to make it easier by just pulling information out of the policies and procedures, making sure that you understand when we're talking about campers and we're talking about their personal life and we're talking about their potential socioeconomic status in interviews, that's not information that we share. So those are kinds of things are going to be very important that we take care of at the camp level. And, things are quiet a little bit in August and September, and then it kicks right back up again. So it is a year-round kind of commitment, which just revs into high gear right about now. Any questions?
Mary, I put in the chat
Yeah.
that Tech Trek is so well respected in California that
Oh,
those
yeah.
girls who get interviewed, and especially those who are chosen as campers, should make sure that they're highlighting that information when they're applying to college.
I write probably 4 or 5 recommendations a year for Tech Trek alums I am
Nice.
familiar with, and the majority of them get in. So I don't know if that's attributable to the Tech Trek piece of it, but I will say that it does carry. I run into a lot of Tech Trek girls when I go into any of the STEM type conferences. I run into them there because they're in college doing it. So it's great.
And you all should know that Mary is an engineer by training.
Yeah, if you can't tell,
Okay, well, let's,
so just FYI, I will be transitioning. I heard you talking about succession planning earlier, and I want to emphasize this is such a key thing with Tech Trek, because one of my goals certainly, and I'm hoping I've impressed that enough on my successors, that is to have the program be run by alums. They don't need us anymore. They should be able to do it themselves. The oldest have kids that can go into Tech Trek now. So to me, this is something I want to see more and more alums get involved with running the program. And it is, it's just such a 30 years we're heading into. So keep your eyes open for some activities. We're going to be trying to do some regional get-togethers with some of our alums and branch members over the next couple of years as we lead into 2028. So yes, get involved. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
We have
Thank you,
very
Dr.
cool.
Mimi.
We have very, very cool swag. Now, I'm just saying this. I mean, how much cooler can this get? It's like we are very special unicorns, right? We're all unicorns. So
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mimi. We need to move on. We're cutting ourselves close on time. So thank you. Great information. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about programs. I'm going to speak very quickly just so we can get through some stuff. Make sure that when you're looking at programs, they're consistent with the mission and the vision of AAUW, as opposed to something that, oh, this might be cool to know about. You can occasionally have those kind of programs, but you really want to stick with what the mission and vision is. You can review the experience notebook from past chairs. You can look at past calendars. Maybe you want an update on a particular issue that you had a speaker a couple years earlier. You can always look at the Bay Awards, the Branch Activity of the Year Awards for some inspiration. There's a lot of videos out there, and maybe there's something that you can replicate in your branch and in your community. I think Sharon mentioned, elected officials. That's one of the end of the year reports, whether or not you had an elected official come, and you can double dip on that and have one of your elected officials talk about a particular issue that's consistent with the mission and vision of AAUW. You see that little star there? That was there to remind me to, double dip on public policy as well as your programs. You can look at your interbranch council, the IBC, for joint meetings or maybe ideas that other branches have had. I think Sigrid mentioned, the president is the representative at your IBC, but tap into that expertise. The branch and affiliate survey, again, you will have some of those bullet points met by doing some of the things that I've mentioned. Looking at recurring programs. One of the things we do in our branch is in election years, in October of an election year, we partner with the League of Women Voters, and they will do a proposition update. So again, if you have an elected official do that, but I would recommend that if an elected official comes, make sure they're not running in that particular year, because you'll get some backlash somewhere. Somebody will not be happy with you. But that's one way to kind of double dip on that. Okay, so Sharon, I'm going to turn it over to you for communications.
Thank you. And just to make you understand what Becky was talking about, double dipping, that's how you get a star in your 5-star program. So communications is crucial. And as Sigrid mentioned, you should probably try and have a communications chair or committee even in your branch. Most branches, or I think all branches now, do put out a newsletter. And those newsletters, by the way, should be sent to the state. All of us on the state board get every single newsletter from the 100+ branches around the state, and we can read them to see what you're doing that's great and possibly suggest to other branches that it might be something that they would like to do too. Also, if you are interested, you can ask the state office to make you be able to receive the newsletters from other branches so you can see what else is going on throughout the state. A lot of times it's somebody else who has a great idea and it's wonderful. And by the way, we're putting a lot of things in the chat with a lot of the connections. If you guys have not taken advantage of the plethora of information, the voluminous aspect of information that is on the state website, that is the first place you should go to look for anything that you wonder about AAUW. There's an enormous section called Branch Tools that covers almost everything you're ever going to need to know. And so I recommend that you do that. With regard to social media and outward reaching communications, we at the state level have hired a marketing team that we're going to be working with to help expand our external outreach to all of California to make us a better known organization. Since we're the oldest organization working on equity for girls and women, we need to be better known. We're very well known in Sacramento at the legislative area, but the rest of the state might not know about us enough. The next thing that you should know is that our state website is handled by our web team. So if you have a question about the website, you can see the link there, web team at aauw.ca.org. You can't just put stuff on the website by yourself. But there are things that can be put onto the state website, especially in an area called Branch Brag. If you've had a program that you think is really wonderful, feel free to email the information to the state office, and they will put it up about your branch under Branch Brag. With regard to all the communications that go out, our web team also is very careful to have our consistent branding. That's something that we're going to be working on with regard to the marketing team. Now, we were asked if this particular meeting is being recorded, and yes, all of our peer group meetings are recorded, and they can be found under either webinars where we've had a webinar about topics, or under the AAUW California peer groups. On the state website, there's this place at the very top. There are all these little letters at the top, and one of the set of words is Branch Tools. If you click on that, up will come about 13 different blocks. And if you scroll down, you can get to the peer groups block. You click on that, and then you look for the branch development group under that, where this webinar, or this peer group meeting rather, will be posted. The other thing the peer group, the web team does is they organize, as Sigrid talked about, all of the lists, all the president's lists, all the treasurers, all the secretaries. So those lists and how you get emails from the state is all organized by our spectacular web team. If you have questions and you're not sure about things, the first block that comes up under branch tools is a block that says ask us first. So if you can't find what you think you need, please click on that block and fill in your information, and the state office manager will appropriately forward the information to the correct parties to give you an answer. So utilize the recordings that are on the peer group. And in addition, we have done over the years probably 2 to 3 dozen webinars. And webinars are found under a different block under the branch tools segment. There's a little magnifying glass at the very top of the website on the home page. So if you wonder about something or other and you have a term that you don't know where to look for the answer, you can click on that search engine. And for instance, if you need an insurance certificate for something and you don't know where to get it, put insurance in that block, and up will come the information and where to find it on the state website. Make yourself aware of this information. We don't want to be reinventing the wheel. It's there for you. And so now, Becky, you're going to talk about community engagement.
Yes, thank you. We've kind of mentioned some of these things already about developing partnerships with other organizations like the League of Women Voters, or you might have some other community organizations within your city or your county that you can partner with. It's always good to have like-minded people. We overlap quite a bit with our local League of Women Voters. Many of their members are our members, and so on and so forth. But that will also help you with programs and some of that community engagement. Look at your branding. We purchased in our branch a tablecloth that has our logo on it, tabletop sign. So when you go out to community events, you're well branded. People know who you are. You could even get a pop-up tent if you're going to do something outdoors with your logo. You could get name tags. Name tags are on the national website. They're very inexpensive. I think it's $10 for the ones that have a pin in it and $15 for the ones that have a magnet. Most people prefer the magnet because it doesn't, poke your clothing. There's also shirts that you can get. Our branch did shirts that were specific to our branch that we wear when we go out to the community. That's again why we have the tablecloths. We've done things like the Great American Ride-In, which is a big community event here in Orange County. And we also do what we call a Sunset Market, which is an outdoor summer market for community groups, a farmer's market, and so on and so forth. So when you go out to these things, you want to be sure you have business cards, brochures. You can do QR codes. You could have a little stand-up label that's got your QR code, so you don't have to print a lot of stuff, but people can go and it sends them directly to the website. They can join, they can just get information about your branch and your website. You can provide them membership information. And again, you want to have your brochures and your business cards, have your social media tags. You can have samples of your newsletter. When we go out to events, I have a notebook that I have that talks about Tech Track, talks about public policy, has all sorts of things in it so people can see what we do and how many different aspects that we support. So these are just some ideas. We also had a webinar about community engagement last year that I believe is still on the website. So that's just very quick. And then I'm going to turn it over to Donna to talk about forms and templates.
Okay. And some of this we've already talked about. There are holidays and observances that we should not, as part of our policy in AAUW, we don't schedule things on Easter We don't schedule things on Passover. We don't, there's major holidays and religious observances that we don't want to compete with that day. All of that is that calendar of holidays and observances. There's all these wonderful things, and it says there's an expense voucher. It is the state voucher. So I put in the chat the Word document that I created for my branch, that because it's Word, they can fill it out online. And if there's receipts needed, they can scan them in for the finance officer, or they can print the expense voucher, attach the receipts, and mail it to them. But I did put that in the chat earlier so that you have an example. Most of this we've talked about, and since we're running on time, let's go ahead to the next slide, which is the need help. And I think we talked about Ask Us First, and the branch tools. So you've seen this. I would like to say regarding the board officers report for the state, it needs to be done in June. The password sent to the presidents is good till June 30th, and then it's gone. And it is not transferable. So you can't send that to somebody else in your branch to do. If somebody else has to do it, you'll need to get a password from our office manager, Julika Barrett, at the office. And if you have an update, so you have somebody who moves or whatever, you have an officer change in October. When that happens for the state, you need to send an email to Julika at aauw-caoffice.org, and she can update that. You can't update it after June 30th. The hub officers, the national database of officers, which doesn't speak, the two platforms don't speak to each other, those can be updated every day of the year, morning, noon, and night. That one is never down unless they take the site down for maintenance in one night. So you're supposed to have everything in by June 30th so they can set up their mailing lists, but it's easy to go in and access and change. And that can be done by the president, the finance officer, and the membership directors. And I think we're back to Becky.
All righty. Okay, so what did we not cover? What do you need from us? What else can we do for you? Or did we get everything answered in the chat? I doubt it, but
You'll need to unmute yourselves if you have a question, or raise your little hand on the React board.
okay. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
I see in the chat that someone is asking about membership VP. That's a position that you might have in your branch with regard to your bylaws. And a lot of times, I know in my branch, for instance, people often start out as co-secretaries, and then they move up to membership vice presidents, and then they move up to presidency or co-presidents. So that's kind of how we have our succession plan that has worked over the years. But I don't know, Carol, what your question is about membership VP.
You went over the responsibilities of a lot of the offices, and you went over the resources on the website. And I thought that was going to be a focus for tonight, one of the many focuses for tonight, which is why I got on, even though I'm super jet lagged.
I'm sorry you're jet lagged, but thank you for showing up. So under the branch tools segment, there is a block that says membership.
Okay.
And There's a lot of information in that block. But specifically dealing with, membership or other positions that might or might not be in branches. Those are
Mhm.
things that were a little bit outside of what we were doing tonight.
Okay,
Whoever has background noise, please mute yourself.
so
But
if we need to update our roles and the information we have from the state or national is just wrong, or there are people who died or moved, maybe you could put in the chat who we would contact to try to get updated information.
that's Donna
Thank
Holmes,
you.
just was on this website, on this peer group. And also in the peer group recordings, there is one for the membership group. It's all part of branch development. Branch development covers membership, branch support, leadership, college university partnerships, branch activity of the year. It's a huge committee with lots of pieces. But go on those peer group meetings that specifically mention membership.
Thank
That's what
you.
I would recommend.
Thank you.
We also have a new director coming on board this year, part of branch development, Sina Trigas, and she is in charge of membership. So you'll hear
Wait,
more
can you
from
spell
her
that?
and Sina, Seena, Trigas, Trigas. And she's
Thank you
from
so much.
San Diego area,
No,
Sharon?
she's in, she actually lives in Temecula. She's part of
Okay.
COV.
No, Southern California.
no.
What?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jane, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Sigrid, thank you very much. This has been terrific. Lots of great information. So I'm gonna assume that if I was paying attention, and I'm co-president of the Long Beach branch, and we've been around for a long time down here in Long Beach. And but these two presentations, this being part two, I'm gonna assume this will be in branch tools, and some of the slides with the lists of things can all be found there.
Yeah. It'll be
Okay.
under branch tools, go to peer groups, and then select branch development. And you'll see all of the recordings that we've made through the past 2 years of all of these events, but for sure tonight and the May one. And we'll put some slides out there too. So if you want to use these in your branch during a planning meeting, that might be helpful.
Oh, great idea. And so are the most recent ones, is it in like chronological order or?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And then I wanted to ask just about merchandise and national, because we've been talking about like maybe we want to embrace community engagement more and have more visibility, like wearing t-shirts or something. But when I looked on the national site, somebody made reference to shirts, and I didn't see anything.
I looked at it while we were on the call here, and I couldn't find anything either.
Yeah.
The national site is not as simple and well organized as the state site.
I just
that
put
kind enough?
But would it be safe to say that we could just use the correct colors and the official logo?
Yeah,
And
sure.
just print.
That's my branch is doing that. We're actually creating Letterman jackets
Oh, wow.
that have our name on the back and a number that says the year you became a member of AEW, 2007 or what have you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're really cute. Not every member is going to buy one, but what we did do is we invested in 4 of them so that they're rotating. So if somebody's going to go to an event, put the jacket on them. And we recently had somebody give out scholarships at a local high school and wore the jacket. And the crowd that wanted to know about AUW, and also some of those girls were Tech Trek girls, or their parents were Tech Trek parents. And they came up and said, "Thank you so much for what you do for us."
That is so great. I'm so glad I asked. That's like way better than a t-shirt.
Oh yeah. They're a little more expensive, but you can share them among the branch members. Not everybody needs one every day.
All right,
So
thank you.
There's a couple of questions,
There,
Becky, in
hold
the
on one
in the
second.
chat. Mhm.
I put the link for the name tags and the shirts in the chat so that you can
Thanks.
see them.
Yeah.
We did our branch shirts with the local vendor that I've used for all kinds of things. So we did a polo and we did a blouse with our logo and our branch. So just depends on what people want, and we use our shirts all the time whenever we go anywhere.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's shop AAUW, and I don't know, it never comes up right going into the aauw.org. It's they email it, well, she put it in there. So you've got it in the chat. And then they've got different categories of items: shirts, totes, stationery, gifts for you, promotional items. They also have.
There's all sorts of things.
that link did work. So thank you for that. I guess it's just hard to find it on the national site.
Yeah.
It is,
It's
and I tried
it took me-
typing it in just for grins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
I always had trouble with it, so that's why I put it in. So I'm going to save you 10 minutes of your life.
Thank you very much.
So can we, I'd like to address this question that's in the chat. We're getting ready for our new board installation. I was surprised not to find any structure or outline for branches. Did I miss it? Yes. But I recommend that you go into the state website, go under branch tools, go under leadership, under the branch tools segment, and there are multiple places where you can find out about what kinds of structures branches have. Some have had presidents of the quarter, some have had presidents, sharing positions, as Sigrid and I are going to be doing July 1. There's all kinds of possibilities. Take a look at the state website. It has the information. And yes,
And the
Sina is the immediate is going to be terming out as the Carlsbad Oceanside Vista president.
The also the BOR and the hub office, both of the places where you list your officers, you also list dates. And if you have, for example, somebody who's going to be president from July 1st to December 31st, and then somebody's going to else is going to be from January 1st to June 30th, you can put the dates. I would put some overlap time in there when you establish everything in June, and it will automatically do it when the time comes. It's not a case of having to go back and update it when your rotation happens. It can all be done at the same time.
And remember, all of you on this call or on this Zoom, there will be more peer group meetings throughout the course of the year. You'll be getting invitations to the presidents or the membership or the leadership, and sign up for those because they will be providing additional information. We're here to help you. That is the mission of AAUW California, to provide programs, education, and advocacy for you in the branches. Any other questions? We've gotten some thank yous, and we're delighted to have you all here. Thank you for stepping up to being leaders for AAUW.
And we look forward to seeing you at many, many peer group meetings. Although we won't be leading them, we'll be dropping in. Okay. Are we done, Becky?
Any last questions? Anything else?
Lots of kudos, thank yous, and so forth in the chat.
Well, thank you all for attending. We appreciate your interest and your commitment to AAUW. It's always nice to see people who are committed to making things better for women and girls. So thank you for all you do.
Have a good night.
All
Good
right.
night.
Good night.
Bye-bye,
Oh,
everybody.
don't forget there's a survey that you'll be
Thank
getting
you,
Oh,
at
yeah.
the
everybody.
end of
When
the.
you sign out, you'll be directed to a survey. If you would please answer that, that would be helpful for us for planning for next year.
Thank you all.
And away we go.
We're stopping.